in the Upper East. It is in the Upper East region of Ghana, Paga, Katsina Nankana West District. And that is a town sharing a border with Burkina Faso, the southern part of Burkina Faso.
So this is a beautiful location you have described. And if people are not very familiar, this conversation is taking place in West Africa. So he describes the boundaries of this location. Yes. Gabriel, tonight we are having a conversation that took place, and this is not Ghana's history. This is not the history of Black people, it's the world's history. And the question for me tonight is, why is it important to remember something that happened over 400 years ago, Gabriel? Why is it important to remember? Your microphone is off, Gabriel.
Sorry for that.
Yes, your microphone. I was asking, why is it important to remember?
Yes, for us in Africa, it is good for us to keep our history, to keep our heritage, because this defines us as who we are. And it is important for us to keep this information until this unborn.
Yes, you said it's important for us to keep this history and this information so that what?
The next generation unborn, they will learn from it.
So something that happened 400 years ago is still important to remember so that posterity is able to also learn and from what happened in the past. Thank you. At this point, I hand it over to you. What is the story of Pikworo, and what has Pikworo got to do in this broader context, in this story that we are telling tonight, and the journey we are going on? What happened there? Who came there? And how did they come there?
All right. Please, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Yes. So the question is, why is Pikworo important? Who came there? How did they come there? And how does that story feed into the bigger story we have always heard? Yeah.
Okay, so in the beginning, when slave trade was established in our country by the Europeans, Pikworo slave camp was established in the year 1704. This place was chosen as one of the memorable places for keeping captives. In the beginning, they were looking for a nice place where captives could be kept without nobody seeing them and nobody knowing what they are doing to them. Pikworo happens to be a natural ground where it has a lot of trees, rocks that gathered it to be so bushy and a hidden place for a lot of activity to carry on. What happened in the year 1704, there were three Black men who actually came into contact with these Europeans who came earlier. In 1704, these people who came were Babatu, Samori, and Bagao. Their full names, let me mention, Babatu Zato, Samori Ture, and then Bagao, who refused to tell where he was coming from and his name. The community Nanya called him Bagao, meaning a bushman. So Samori was from Burkina Faso, Babatu from Mali, and then Bagao, as I said, he refused to tell where he was coming from. And these three raiders were the point of contact to the Europeans. They identified and settled in Pikworo in Paga currently. Earlier on, we were not having Northern Ghana, Southern Ghana, or Burkina Faso, and then other countries. So in 1704, our zone was called the Upper Zone, the Upper Volta, or the Upper Zone. And that was when we do not have borders separating Ghana and Burkina Faso. So what happened as at that time was that this Samori, Babatu, and Bagao, who came as slave raiders, they actually came to locate this nice place, and they decided that it has a spiritual value. So with the spirituality in it, they decided to use that place to keep captives. In the beginning, they never told anybody that they are coming to capture slaves and send them somewhere. But what happened was that the Europeans deceived them and made them to know that their aim of getting people within our zone was to keep them in a comfortable place somewhere in the Western world where they will work, get enough money, resources to come back and develop our communities. For then, these three raiders who came earlier, as I mentioned, 1704, they decided to stay in Pikworo slave camp as their main point or their camping place for the captives. And what happened was that our elders and then the chiefs of the area were so happy upon hearing that they are trying to help people within the local communities to establish themselves and getting much information and trying to know details of what happened in this area. What happened was that the community leaders were not into direct contact to the site as to know what actually happened there. And what happened was that these captives who were actually the initial slaves, sorry to mention slaves here, they were actually brought into the camp with shackles because the captives were not having any power. There was no authority. There was no any other agency to save them. So initially, when you are a young man, a young woman moving to the market, to the farm, or going to get water from a water source, the three raiders who came earlier will capture you by force and send you to this camp, the Pikworo slave camp. And when they get you in that place, they will lock you with shackles, they put you in chains and then tie you attached to a tree. What happened was that they never allow anybody to leave the site until they were able to move all of them from Pikworo to Salaga slave market in about 250 kilometers. From Salaga, they proceeded on to Assin Manso, about 700 kilometers. The journey ended in the castles, the slave dungeons, where it took them about 800 kilometers of foot work to get there. Pikworo has been a memorial place for these events and all that happened out of enslavement. And it was due to lack of knowledge that earlier on came from the white man who actually deceived the raiders to come into contact. So with Pikworo, there is a lot of information there as what actually transpired about over 300 years ago before the captives were sent to the castles. So let me take a brief of what actually happened there. The captives came earlier, the slave raiders came earlier, and their work was to deceive our leaders, that is community leaders, chiefs, leaders. They were deceived that they want to make life better for the people in the community. Once they were deceived, these elders were now trying to know who they are, what they do, how is it possible. These Babatu, Samori, and Bagao, the slave masters, as I mentioned, they were actually in direct contact with the chiefs, so they were able to give them motives or rewards, as in wine, gunpowder, and other sugary items, just to convince them that these are things that they have not seen, they have not eaten before, even a common mirror that they have not seen. And it was evidence to show that life will be better for some people in the near future if they are able to send captives from our end to the Western world. So what happened was that our leaders, that is our elders, were also in agreement with it because they wanted their communities to develop. And once they tried to understand much of it, these raiders were trying much of their best to hide the dirty part of the enslavement, and they were pushing with the good side of it. Yes. So they started the trade. The trade started, and they were capturing people by force, as I mentioned earlier. They capture you anywhere you are. They bring you to the camp and they chain you, not knowing that a time will come where they will not get enough people and people will resist. So they change their strategy by getting people being convinced to join them. And by convincing them to join them, they actually told them that there will be better life for them in the near future. So they can come to your family as a household. They talk to you that they need to take 2-3 people to the Western world where they train them, give them more resources to come back and develop their communities. So these people were all in support of trying to know the outcome of what will transpire. And they were selecting few of their family members to join. And by doing this, they can present some items like gunpowder, cowries, wines, other items, just to common sugar, just to motivate you and to let you believe that there will be better life for other people in the near future. So when these captives were brought into the slave camp, they did not build any structure to keep them as compared to the dungeons that were built in the Elmina and the Cape Coast. So the captives were actually allowed to be chained under trees. There were a lot of things that happened to them. Some were bitten by snakes. During raining seasons, they have to be in the rains while they are under the trees. They don't have place to sleep. So once they chain them along the trees or attach the trees, they will keep them until they are satisfied with the number of people, approximately 300 to 400 people, where they can march them from Pikworo slave camp to Salaga, from Salaga to Assin Manso, and then they will finally end in the dungeons. Yes, within.
I'm at this point, and the story is so convoluted as you listen to it. And today is the journey. We are going on the journey. So I might not ask, but as I reflect on what you have said, I see a lot of people who are complicit in this story. And I'm wondering, is Pikworo this town that is far off or set apart from the township? Because if these people have brought beautiful things that you've never seen before, like mirrors, things you've never tasted before, like sugar, and the story is, we are taking your people to a place where they would come back and bring such prosperity, I would volunteer to go. But the thing is, what sort of movement is this? Of what sort of promise is this if I finally see the people who volunteered now being chained to trees and their freedom taken away from them? So was Pikworo hidden, a hidden place from settlements that people did not know what was going on? And what were the stories, if any, of these people who had come? And you talk of Babatu and the others, and the inkling is they had come from outside Ghana. And so what was the motivation, actually, is if there's any record of the sort?
All right. I mentioned earlier that Pikworo is a place. Initially, there was no town. The whole city was in a uniform manner. There is no town, there is no village. But Pikworo, as such, is a place surrounded by trees, rocks, and nobody was accessible to it. Houses were no closer to it where you can actually see what happened in there. And what happened in the beginning was that captives were captured by force. So you trying to come inside the place, you might be captured as a captive as well. So nobody knew that people were chained to trees and all that. Yes, until the year they were trying to abolish it, until they actually saw what happened inside. Nobody knew what was happening in there.
As the story unfolds, I also like to throw to the rest of the tribe, because I have been thinking about this. Trade is beautiful. In 2024, people still trade. somebody goes to school in China, or somebody goes to school in Germany, or somebody comes to school in South Africa, and they fall in love with a place. They don't go back again. Or they fall in love with somebody, they marry, they settle, they start a new family. And the past few weeks, as we've been preparing for this exhibition, I have been thinking transatlantic trade reimagined without the enslavement. So I would like to throw that to the tribe. And as we tell the story, with all the difficulties and the dissonances and the resonances that will come in, and all the fatigue, how will the story have been told if it was the transatlantic trade of people buying and selling, of people forming friendships and relationships? If we could reimagine to tell that story, what would it sound like? Over to you, Gabriel. Go on. So this is happening, and we are getting about 300 people at the goal who will be marched to Salaga Market, and then from Salaga Market, those who are probably in good form and sold will then march onwards another 700. Is it miles? 700?
Yes, kilometers.
700 kilometers to Assin Manso, where we will end up our story tonight. So yes, please continue.
Okay, so within the camp, within the Pikworo slave camp, a lot of activities were carried out over there. Aside slaves were not having accommodation where they were chained to trees, there is a reservoir where water springs from a ground for everyone who was there to have a taste or something to drink when they are thirsty. Because of their number and the nature of the place, they were not able to provide bowls for every captive to eat in. So they supply stones, harder stones for them to carve on the a flat surface on the rock where holes were being carved in shape in a way that food can be placed in for them to eat. Within the camp as well, they were not allowed to move anywhere. So being chained to trees from morning, evening, night, always on the trees, they were allowed to exhibit their cultural drumming and dancing on a certain rock which produces sound for them. Actually, what happened was that the captives came from the northern Ghana, and the beginning of the trade was not limited to only one tribe. Our tribe was the Kassina tribe of people. Our tribe started from Burkina Faso, so we were the initial captives that they started with, and then they extended their trade to other places like the Bulses, the Frafres, the Mosis, the Dagatis, and covering a lot of tribes within the northern Ghana. So from here, we have something like a meeting place anytime they get a lot of people that they needed to send to the journey or the route, they would then keep them in a meeting place within the camp. We have it from that meeting place, every captive will be put in chains together, and then they will march from here to Assin Manso as our end for today, but they actually end in the castles where the Europeans will actually exchange with these three slave raiders, and they will come back to capture another batch of people. It took them about 70 to 80 days of walking in 800 kilometers from Pikworo to the end, that is the castles, where they were actually left there for the Europeans to take them over the sea to the Western world, where these three masters will come back to the villages to capture more people. Within the camp, there are a lot of structures as where a radar was standing on to have a view of the whole place in case captives are trying to run away or someone is coming to attack them. This radar on a rock could actually see. There was no light as at that time. So when people are walking in the night, they use lamps or lanterns to just have a view of their distance just to walk in there. A lot of people actually died in Pikworo slave camp. Let me say some of our forefathers who died there were through snake bite mentioned earlier. Some died out of starvation. Others also died out of diseases because they never had medical doctors or any drugs to give them when they are in need of it. The only Europeans, that was the Arabs who came earlier and they settled in Jamestown in Accra. They further divided themselves. Some came to the northern part, that was in Salaga slave market. That is where they were in with some doctors, that was the Arabs. But actually the route was not supplying the Arabs. They actually came to the Salaga slave market to also fight and have their way of getting our own fathers to supply their continent, or sorry, their country. So within here, the camp is still in existence, and then we have a cemetery as at now for those who died through these tragedies. They were buried in group mass burials. And within the cemetery, there's a portable rock which they use for punishment. A lot of people were trying as much as possible to run. And once you try to escape and they get you, they bring you back here, and then you will be punished on top of that rock. So it was actually a bad something that happened. Nobody was happy with it. And from the start of it, 1704 to 1764, a lot of people went through. About thousands of them were carried away. So our community, there was a new generation that came up and formed a rebellion team where they actually rebelled, and they were able to kill these three slave raiders, and the camp was left on. And that was when they were able to go inside the camp and know what was actually happening there. So initially they didn't know what was happening there until they killed these three masters before they actually saw what was happening there. So the camp is still in existence, and a lot of people who went through this journey, actually, none of them will still be living by now, but their great-great-great-grandchildren are living. So I'll end the Pikworo story here, then I'll start with the next DNA reunion project that I am running here, so that maybe if we have a few questions to ask about the Pikworo, then I go to the section of.
Gabriel, I'm so interested in the DNA program you're running, and I think that should be a whole exhibition on its own. Because one of the questions I've said that when we meet like this, we say lived experience. And so question number 2 to the tribe is, if you're here and you identify as an African in the diaspora, or you identify as a Black African on the continent, however you are connected with the story, however you're connected with the African world, is this your lived experience? Is this your living experience? Why do you remember a story, an incident, a tragedy that happened over 400 years ago? Today, 2024, we still remember. And we will come back to the DNA project. I think that's a very important project, and a lot of learnings and reflections we will draw out from there. We will take a quick break now. I will go into the chat. I'm going to ask one of our tribeswomen, Anesi, if you're with us this evening, please do introduce yourself and tell us what is going on in the chat, and then we will fly back to Pikworo. Anesi, are you able to update us on the chat, please?
Good evening. Yes, I'm trying to get into the chat. I'm using a different device, so I'm having a bit of a problem, but I will do my utmost. One moment, please.
Okay.
So I think there's just one message in the chat, and it's from our sister Abinafiano. She says Bruce Crowther, who loves Ghana, has tried to establish the fair trade triangle to shift the narrative. The triangle has at its heart the first fair trade town in Africa. Now Koforidua is a cocoa growing community in Ghana the first, oops, hang on a minute, the screen has gone blank. The first fair trade town in the Americas, Media PA, and the first fair trade town in the world, Gaustang is in the UK. It's based on the mutual respect, partnership, and reciprocal learning. So Muntombo says, wow, this story of Pikworo is that sad. May we never toe that line again. Thank you. And I have to apologize to everybody. My systems decided to play up, hence my tardiness, arriving when I did. So my sincerest apologies.
Thank you, Nanette. We're here to tell the human story, and that story is not scripted. Earlier, we had a message from Carol Dunkers, who was born and raised in the Netherlands, and now her home in Northern Ghana since 27. Currently, she joins us from Wa in Upper West, and she says she resonates a lot with the Africaniwa's mission. Her first time with the tribe was when we joined the Hazabe tribe from Tanzania. So much happening that I sometimes can only listen and receive. Welcome once again, Carol. It's always an honor and a privilege to have old tribesmen and women return or new one joining us in. Thank you, Muntombo, for sharing. Thank you, Joanna, also for sharing. So if we could tell the story again, the world reimagined, transatlantic trade, what would it be like? The curiosity to travel to a place where sugar is in abundance, where mirrors are in abundance, the curiosity for others to travel to a place to see people who didn't look like them or sound like them, people who were rich in natural resources, a place where the sun lived, a place where Red Mother Earth was under the feet of the people. How will this story would have been told? And number two, is this even your lived experience? We'll go back to Pikworo. Gabriel, if you're with me, before we talk about the DNA project you embarked on, I wanted to ask if any of your sisters have got anything to add to the story. Brenda, and then I think Sabrina, you mentioned.
Sabina.
Yes. Sabina and Brenda, welcome to Africaniwa. Maybe you want to briefly introduce yourself, and maybe I'll ask you to fill in the gaps. Because sometimes the storyteller is telling the story and you no, you forgot this very important part. So Gabriel has told a very detailed story, but I'm going to ask you, Sabina and Brenda, please introduce yourself and fill in the gaps where necessary.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to Africaniwa, My Lens, Our Story. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Sabina Buga from Paratu as well. And we've all grown to hear the story, and I think my mother has just done justice to it. Basically, that is what we're being told. You get some of these things are not being documented, whereby you can refer to them with time to time. These were oral stories, and then this was exactly what was being passed from generations to generations, so it has gotten to our time. So I think he has done justice to it. I don't think there's anything left out of it.
And the other question that came out of conversation as we were preparing for this interview was it only people in that locality of northern Ghana who were brought to Pikworo? Were there people who were brought from other parts of the African continent to the slave camp?
I think some of them came from Burkina side. So perhaps that's what I'm saying. It's a story that is being passed from generation to generation. So making inference to the fact that it's coming from Burkina, perhaps there could have been others who had moved in from Mali and that stretch, then passing through Burkina to had come to Pikworo. But then we don't have facts to prove to you that maybe this particular country, this was where some were picked and all that. But then I believe that so far as it's within the stretch, maybe one or two could also come from Mali and then all the other sub-Saharan countries around Burkina Faso.
Thank you. You know, when you were speaking, you reminded me of something. There's a place somewhere in Accra, a suburb of Accra, called Boom. And when I have listened to white people tell stories of Boom, where there's a huge pile of textile waste that is always burning, they say kaboom. We haven't come to say kaboom, we Africaniwa. So you better tell us how to mention this name. I keep saying Pikworo, you said Pikworo. So teach us and we shall learn. How do you mention the name of this town?
The thing is actually because it is a place made of rocks, a rock is called Pew. Do you get it? So I think it's based on that. I say Pew, Koro, Pink, Koro.
So it's Koro.
But I think, yeah, it's Koro.
You've got to teach us the right way. Our name is Africaniwa, Pew Koro. So if you have joined us, and for the past how many years you hear people saying Pikworo, go back and tell them, today you came on Africaniwa, where things are said the right way. And the lady told us, rock is called Pew. And so tonight we have all learned is Pikworo. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Filling in the gap. Thank you for filling in the gap. Thank you.
Nice meeting everybody on the team.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm wondering if your other sister would like to add anything or also bring greetings from Pikworo this evening, if she is with us.
Okay, good evening to you all.
Hi, Brenda. Lovely to have you on
I can't share my video. I'm so sorry about that.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's
so
fine.
My name is Brenda, and I'm also from Paga. And from what our brother said, he said all that is needed to be said. And as well as my sisters added up. So I think that's fine.
So if any of the tribes folks decide to visit Pikworo, they are likely to see yourself, Sabina, and most likely Gabriel, who is managing the facility, and quite often what you do is give people tours. What kind of people normally visit? Do you have regular indigenous people who live there who have come out of curiosity to find out exactly what happened? Do you have school children who visit? Is it always people from Africa?
Yes.
Foreigners. So I was asking the visitors you normally have. Is it school children, people within the locality, or quite often you have people coming from different parts of Ghana, different parts of Africa, or largely foreigners?
Yes, we have different people coming from different parts of Ghana, different parts of Africa, and then the world at large. Even schools within our locality, that's Paga, Navrongo, and the other neighboring towns, they do visit the Pikworo slave camp on regular excursions. So it's not just related to people of Paga, but then the surrounding towns and cities, other regions in Ghana, other African countries, and then other parts of the world.
Tonight we are also asking this important question, Brenda. This is a story of so many years ago. Do you remember, Brenda, and why do you remember?
Yes, I do remember, because those were our ancestors. And as a human being, from the stories we've heard about this slave trade and the kind of suffering and punishments they went through, I sometimes try to put myself in their shoes. Imagine it was me, the kind of suffering and punishment I would have gone through. Yeah.
And so you remember. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us. So at this point, we have left all 300 of us, and we have journeyed about 500 kilometers, I'm told, to Salaga. I'm going to go back to Gabriel, and we didn't stop in this exhibition. We were taking the two extremes before Cape Coast Castle. But Gabriel, maybe we will come back to you for you to give us a brief. What happens at Salaga when all 300 of us have arrived at Salaga? What exactly happens over there?
Okay, so what happened in Salaga, as I mentioned earlier, Salaga was owned by a different group of foreigners, that is the Arabs. They first came and settled in Accra, a town called Jamestown. They later divided themselves, and half of them came to Salaga slave market, currently located in the northern region of Ghana. So when they came in as a full set. They came in with their medical doctors, their soldiers, and then their weapons. What happened was that they came just to fight and capture people within the zone. What happened, I mentioned earlier, our people who were trying to give resistance because of who we are. Other tribes were not as thick, tall like we are. So the reason of why they were moving to that side was that they were looking for strong, energetic people where they can actually capture them and add them to their purpose. The main purpose of getting people here to countries like Brazil was just they needed strong people who can resist the weather to work on their right arm. Yes. So what happened was that these Arabs who came earlier, as I mentioned, when they came, they had their comfort under a tree called a baba tree. The tree was big enough to cover a larger space where they could actually bring all captives there and chain them. In Salaga, these Arabs, when they came in, they actually captured some few tribes as a start. They made them to build defense walls. They set a trap just to let other tribe people to fight and win others for them. Like, let's take it, the Gonjas, the Dagatis, they build a wall and cause a fight for them. So when the Gombes are able to fight the Dagatis, they will enter there, capture most of the people for them as slaves. So the Arabs, their purpose was to set this trap just to get enough people. When you come to Salaga, as we speak now, this baba tree is still there. Blood stains, injuries that were made earlier on are still on the tree. And that was the only point where they could keep the captives before they move them to their main camp that is in Accra, Jamestown. So this is a brief of what happened in Salaga. What also transpired was that they came in with their doctors. So with the doctors, they were able to treat a larger number of people. Even captives moving from Pikworo to Assin Manso, they will first of all go to Salaga, where the weaker, the sick ones will be left with the Arabs to treat them and then own them as well. The stronger ones were the only people who walked to this Assin Manso. Even on their way, if you are sick, you are tired, you will still have to push along. If you die, they remove their shackles on your neck, and then you are left in the bush for other, let me say, wild animals to feed on you, whilst they try to manage the rest to survive to the castle. So in brief, this is what happened in Salaga. Thank you.
Yeah, such a deep story for you to talk about the blood stains and all the evidence of the pain and the suffering still there today after so many years, etched on this baobab tree, that still stands tall in Salaga today. Indeed, yeah, what a story, what a story. And so we remember. And so the question is, do you remember? And why do you remember? If you've just joined, this is Africaniwa, my lens, our story. All 300 of us have been captured by Babatunde and two other men who stood on the rock. Some of us were going to fetch water. Some of us were going to fetch firewood. Some of us were going to forage food for our children, and we were captured, all 300 of us. Now we have moved to Salaga. Some have survived, some have not. Some have been injured. We have Arab doctors who are taking care of others. The blood stains, the whip, the pain, and the agony is all etched on the baobab tree. We are moving. We are walking another approximately 700 kilometers. And along this journey, some will fall weak. And so the shackles will be removed from their feet, their necks, their arms maybe, and they will be left in the wild. Only the fittest will survive on this journey, because the journey ahead is even a more dangerous one. And we can only go on this journey if we are strong. And so here we are on this journey. And so we make it to a place called Assin Manso, where a lot more is going to be happening. But perhaps quite significantly at Assin Manso is where we are going to be washing our body in familiar lands, in familiar waters for the very last time. Let's head over to Assin Manso. Mr. Ado, thank you for joining us this evening. I know you've been on the call for a while now. Dorcas, thank you for the support you've given your granddad this evening. And I want to say thank you, Dorcas. Dorcas, please put the microphone on. And your microphone is off. Thank you very much, Dorcas. Mr. Ado, thank you for joining us. We have traveled all the way from Salaga. We are about to enter Assin Manso, and you are the storyteller waiting for us. Please introduce yourself. Dorcas, are you able to turn the microphone on again, please? Ed, are we able to? Yes, thank you. Dorcas, maybe you will introduce yourself. I keep mentioning your name. Come and tell us who you are, and then you hand over to your granddad to introduce himself. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Dorcas, and Mr. Ado is my grandfather.
Okay, and thank you for all the assistance you've given since we started engaging with you and your granddad, and for all the tech support. You're a good granddaughter. Thank you. We are at Assin Manso, so we are about to enter, Mr. Ado. Please introduce yourself before we get into our story.
I am Kwaku Ado.
Yes.
Welcome to Assin Manso, the nodal town, the slave market, and ancient slave center. Welcome.
An ancient slave center. This is how he describes his town, Assin Manso. For a long time, we have also had people on the internet say Pikworo, Pikworo. Today, we realize it's not even Pikworo, it's Pikworo. So please tell us, this name, Assin Manso, what does it mean? How did that name come about?
Oh, my sister, thank you. You see, people were saying, I want to refer you to historical name that they were saying, slave, slave, slave. I want you to correct this word from now until thy kingdom come. Here, we had domestic servants. It is our brothers and sisters who were taken to the diaspora and they were enslaved. Here, they were captives. So we still call it Assin Manso was captive market center. Now, how did Assin Manso come about? Assin Manso was formerly a vanguard of the Ashanti Empire. And when there was atrocities and the Europeans, you should say Europeans, I will not leave one or two countries who were interested in farming and making themselves rich, came to Elmina and were pushing out. And then there was rivalry among them. Who should go first? What should I get first? Why can I get it first? Came about. So at Assin Manso was very close to Cape Coast, 31 miles. Change it to kilometers. That would be about 9/5 or whatever it is, and calculate it. Where the captive masters could come with their collaborators and then had their captives and take them to the castle. Then you ask me, how did Assin Manso come about? When Assin Atanansu and Apimanim were invited to come and assist the Etis who were attacked by the Europeans, they succeeded in driving away the raiders. And so the Etis called them, stay at this place. There was a tree called Manse or mine. The tree is called mine.
Okay.
Do you understand? Mine.
Or mine.
Very good. So they are in charge of the whole state. Or mine so. They are in charge of the Omine. So they were called Omanso. Now, I want to talk to you about Assin Manso.
Please go ahead.
When they came, and the slave masters who could not go inside, go further. In fact, they were thinking about themselves so much so that they wouldn't like to be harmed by the raiders. So they knew that Assin Manso was so close to Cape Coast, they could walk to Assin Manso and go back the same day.
Okay.
With their collaborators, people they have taught their language, and the same people could speak the local language. So when they came, the collaborators would come, speak with the local people, and speak with the slave masters. That's why we call them collaborators. Yeah, that's one thing. So when they came, that long time, anytime they came, that long distance, I listened to my...
I'm going to come in at this point. When we meet like this, we haven't just come to listen to Pikworo's stories. No, this is lived experience. This is where we build knowledge. This is where we share knowledge. So I'm going to ask Nanesi, who is helping us in the chat. Nanesi, if you can put these words in the chat, we can all go back and reflect on them. One of the words enslaved, one of the words captive, one of the words collaborators, one of the words slave masters. Is a lot of learning and unlearning we are doing tonight. And you have bring in such rich nuance to the story to say that on the Ghanaian soil, on the African soil, there were no slaves. They were captives.
Yes, madam.
The slavery started after they left home. And what we had before, you said there were domestic what?
Servants.
Domestic servants. So the domestic servants, we have heard people say in the past that slavery already existed in Africa, and you are telling us that what existed were domestic servants who were serving. And when enslaved ancestors were on African soil, they were captives. Slavery then was going to be their new name when they would leave African soil. I want to be sure that we are getting this learning right from you.
Please, madam, let me tell you that in African society, we didn't treat our people badly. We didn't kill them. We call them akwa, servants. Everybody, each and everybody had his own assignment at the palace or in the town. That's why we call them akwa. That is, you cannot become a chief or something like that. But when they were taken there, they were taken as second-class human beings, and they were treated bad. That's why they were slaves. See, the definition, I don't know how you define slavery. But if you acquire, that is, you are a servant. We treated you as a human being. We didn't just treat you just like anybody at the society where we can do anything we like with you. That's what I want you to know. That is what.
Okay, so somebody will go back into their classroom, somebody will go back into their community and tell the group what you have said this evening. So they will ask, how old was this man who was telling the story? And how much does he know? So please tell us, how long have you been living and breathing the air and the history of Assin Manso?
You want me to tell you about my experience at Assin Manso or my age?
Your age, so that the people know that you were not born yesterday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. On June 3rd, 1960, I will be 77 years.
So this is when Ghana became a republic.
I was a retired teacher,
Yes, 1960, Jim said. Thank you very much. So there's a lot of authority and there's a lot of experience. There's a lot of rich stories that have been handed down for many generations from Mr. Ado, who is sharing with us today. So yes, we have defined those words. Tell us what exactly happened at Assin Manso. From Salaga, a distance of about 700 kilometers, now we have arrived at Assin Manso. You have told us the name of this town, how it got its name. What happened there?
At Assin Manso, it was not, the whole of Central region were not interested in that attack. What happened was that Assin Manso is, as I told you, is 31 miles, 36 miles from Cape Coast. I don't know how you call it in kilometers. So after they have moved from whatever they came from, they came to Kumasi, then they passed through Assin Manso. They came to Brofodu, and then to Assin Fosu, to Assin Manso, which is only 36 miles from Cape Coast, where the slave masters, as they call them, could walk and come to this place to find their wanted goods and go back the same day without being harmed. Yes, that's why it became a market. And that place, when they came, see, they came from different places. We had Elmina Castle, we have Cape Coast Castle, we have Almabo. So at Assin Manso is another town. When you go to the southern part, the market side, when you take the left hand side, you can walk to Almabo with your how should I call them? Your captives. Then, yes, those who want to go to Almabo will take a Ochisu road and go to Almabo. Those who want to go to Cape Coast or Elmina will walk, and when they arrive at Nyafeku Ekrofu, those going to Elmina will pass to that place, and those going to Cape Coast will walk straight. So Assin Manso was a nodal town for the market. That's how I'll put it.
Yes, it was a nodal town, so it became a place of great repute for the captors, because as you said, from Assin Manso, there are so many ways and so many spaces you could journey with your captives to leave the shores of West Africa to cross the Atlantic. Yes. So this is how Assin Manso came about to be this place of great importance in the story that we are telling. So Assin, some people have said that Assin is where we are passing through. How does that resonate with the whole story? What is the real story that has been handed down?
Madam, I thank you very much for breaking Yabesi. Look, I told you that we were the vanguard of the Ashanti Empire. And when we were advancing to come and help the Eti to drive away the Europeans, you see, we were so many. So they said, yes. They were very many. Should I say passes. Yeah, passy. That is what I have come to learn about it all. Because you know, yes, this is history. Somebody may tell his own in a different way. But I have collected from my ancestors. Thank you very much.
And that is why we value your story, because at Africaniwa we say, which means if you do not tell your story, be sure someone else would, and they might not tell it right. So now we are at Assin Manso. We have come. 300 of us started this journey from Pikworo. We went through Salaga, some fell alongside the way. We journeyed at about 500 or 700 kilometers to Assin Manso. Some of us made it, some of us did not make it. Now we have arrived at Assin Manso. What exactly happened there to the captives?
Before you enter the town called Assin Manso, you will pass through, where you are coming from, you know that there were no road, there were paths.
Yes.
There were paths. And when Assin Manso, we have two rivers, very cool rivers. One called Amisa Amamisa or Amisochi. And then there is one in Nonkosu. The confluence is very inviting. So people who are tired, poor innocent victims were always welcome there. When you come to that place, you see, before Manso was made, you see, the paramount chief had a place where he kept his servants. That's why you call it Nonkonsu. Donko means you cannot become a chief. Donko doesn't mean servant, a slave. Donko doesn't mean slave. It's a servant. So when you can ask your chief people and whatever it is. So when the people were coming, they said, "Oh, we want to pass this place. Then how can you help us?" So, if you want to rest here, there is a river here. You can go to that place and walk and continue your journey. That is what we call Nongos. It was not formally called because it was given to them. That's why we call it Nongos.
And you paint a very beautiful picture of this confluence that is so inviting for people who have been walking many miles. Water can touch our feet, water can touch our mouth, water can touch our body, our tongue. And this beautiful confluence of these two rivers meeting, how tired we are. So we are here at Assin Manso. We have seen this beautiful river. It has met the other one. It is so inviting. What happens here?
The pure, how should I take? How should I put it? The poor, innocent victims, when they have arrived, before even they arrive, they have informed the collaborators that they were coming. The raiders will inform them that they were coming. And so when you come to Assin Manso, they have got bamboo groups. You know, those days, you didn't have tents. So you see, we call it apata. You put one bamboo here, one bamboo here, one bamboo there, then you roof it. After roofing, shed. When it becomes a shed, you keep your raiders, your captives there until the slave masters arrive. So until 3 or 4 days before the slave masters arrive, they will be groomed. Forgive me to use that word, because they are so tired, old, they can't even speak. So that place, after washing them, they gave them food to eat. What food did they give them? You know cola.
Yes.
Cola nut.
Yeah.
With some cola nuts and some cassava, roasted cassava. You see, cola nut will keep you awake, to make you strong.
Cola nut has
yes, with some cassava, you call it gari. Then they give you to sustain you. So after they have bathed you, you look healthy before the raiders will present you to the slave owners and then their collaborators. That place, then the slave masters will come and do selection. After you have had your bath, they look at you and see how you are fit. How fit are you? They look at your height, everything. Oh, you look smart. Then they look at your teeth. I don't want to talk. When they arrived there, you see, they brought old men. And the old men that they brought, when they wanted them to look young, they brought them the broken bottles. That the drink that they brought, they break the bottles and use the bottles to shave your hair, so that you use young. Then they bath you. So when you come, the slave masters will look at you, and then when they see that your teeth are more than 32, they say, "This man is an old man. Let's put him on." So if you come to Assin Manso, in fact, that place, if you come there, you are talking about Salaga and all those things. But that place, weak, fragmented Africans were discarded. But those who were a little strong were absorbed by the local people, took them to their homes, and then took care of them. So Assin Manso, when you come there, don't talk about Donko. when you come and talk that somebody's donko, for what you shall do to you, not like it. Because we have absorbed them and they are part of us. So after they have made their selection, then they walk, shackles, their masters, then they go to Cape Coast. You know what they were exchanged for already. Some people have told you that they came with mirror, colon. Look, the mirror, if you march forward, please remove that mirror system from it. No African or no chief was stupid to exchange his royal or his servant for mirror. After he has seen 2 or people for a mirror, was the mirror going to cook for him or pound his fufu? But the white man was so clever to make the African look stupid that even we were exchanging the indigenous people for mirrors. Some Nigerians came to a place. I told them, go to Nigeria and tell them that I say that history is not correct. They should remove it from their history. So at Assin Manso, that was the last marketplace. From here, 36 miles to the Cape Coast. And then some of them went to Anumabo Castle, some of them went to Elmina, some of them went to Cape Coast. That's why I told you that at those who are going to Elmina will pass by, those going to Cape Coast walk straight, and those going to Alumabo at Assin Manso here, they will branch. That's what I have to tell you.
You are flying Africaniwa this evening. You are wondering, who is this man who is so fierce? This man who is sat somewhere in a partially lit room, who is challenging history. This man who has sent some Nigerians to go back and rewrite history because the chiefs were not stupid enough to exchange their royals for merit. But you're looking at the Zoom and his name is Dorcas. His name is not Dorcas. Dorcas is the name of his granddaughter. His name is Mr. Adam. So make some notes. Put it somewhere in the chat. The man's name is Dorcas. It's not Dorcas. His name is Mr. Adam. And today he has told us that history is inaccurate. He says none of the chiefs was going to ever exchange their royals for a piece of mirror. A piece of glass with some silver coating at the back. It was never going to happen. And he tells the story about Assin Manso, but he gets to this point when he says he has no idea what happened at Assin Manso. He has also warned us, nobody should come to Assin Manso and call anyone Donko. Do not go to Assin Manso and call any one of them a servant. He said, we absorbed the weaker ones who could not make it on the journey, and they became a part of us. They have become a part of our family. Ms. Ado, I want to ask this question. When we began this journey in Salaga, I was asking, was it only people who were local and indigenous to the Pikworo area, or were there people who had come from different parts of the continent as well? And what is the story that has been handed over to you? Who were these people whom the community absorbed, who now became a part of them? Were there people from different African countries? Were there people from only the northern part of the country? What is the story concerning the people who now became a part of your family?
Oh, my sister, thank you very much for that. You see, have you seen, look at the whole of the West African coast. Have you seen Cape Coast? Cape Coast Castle.
Yeah.
Sheep can birth there and take, see, the fjorded coast, they can, if somebody is coming from this is Senegal, why are they having a port? Why could the ship birth to take slaves? Cape Coast was the correct place. So coming from and the other places were all landlocked countries.
Yes.
They couldn't fly. They should all come to the coast. And where was the best coast? The best coast was in Cape Coast. Cape Coast Castle was one of the best. They came from many parts of the whole of West Africa. Not what did I say it? Not even West Africa. Other part, rather from the Sahel.
Yeah.
Yes, That's why they said many of them perished before they arrived here. That's why they have to keep them at Salaga for them to have some strength before coming. And Salaga, where would they pass? Where would they go? They will all have to come to Cape Coast Castle, which was the best place they could export their goods. Expect to say goods indeed. So that is great. Most of them pass here. The greatest part that they passed was this place, Assin Manso.
I want to ask this question as well. And it's a question I've asked from the beginning. You tell this story so well as a story that happened just yesterday.
Yes, madam.
And because it's so vivid in your mind, the images you have seen, the landmarks you have seen, the stories that have been handed over. And the question for me is, over 300 years, over 400 years, why do you remember?
What do I remember?
Yes.
When a snake bites you, when a snake bites you, you warn your children that they should be aware of what?
Snakes.
So if somebody has done something to me, people see the pain is there from generation to generation to generation. And how it will be told is what to tell you that you must be aware of one or two things. Beware of these people. This is how they are. They came as this, they left us in this position. That's what I can tell you.
If a snake has bitten you, certainly you will tell your children to beware of snakes. And I will add to that and say, it also means if ever the toad came out of the pond to tell you the crocodile was dead, make no mistake, it is not fake news. It is not false history. It is not Buslimika.
At all.
This is the story of the lived experience. And you heard him, he says, at all. It is not fake news. A lot has been said. We will take a short break. We will go over, fly back to the UK, go somewhere to West Yorkshire, and we will ask Nanesi, what is happening in the chat? Who is saying what and how are they saying it? Nanesi, your microphone, yes, thank you.
So, here we go. So, at one point, Raymond was having difficulty coming in. The history teacher, he said the history teacher was having problems joining, and sorry, I'm trying to scroll back. So, okay, hang on a minute. Please, our history teacher, Michael Bioliga, who is supposed to be our speaker from Ghana, is facing challenges. I'm currently at his place, but the family said he went out in search of network, and we have both called but cannot reach him. Ntombo mentions that these are true human stories of lived experience. I'm learning from all that. Carol Donko put something in a meeting. Oh gosh, my screen has disappeared. I'm sorry, I'm on a different device and it just keeps playing up.
I will see if I can.
Yes, please. And after you've done that, I would like to add something to the memory thing, please.
Yes, Nanette, you did mention. Yes, as Mwintembo who said, yes, this is a true human story of lived experience. I'm learning from all that. Carol did share something. I'm yet to have a look. Mwintembo said he's glad he joined. The story resonates with him, this history. And Joanna said, my visit to Assin Manso was one of the most profoundly moving, humbling experience of my life. It's a sacred, quiet place of reflection and learning. Thank you, Ms. Ado, for sharing this story. I am sharing a Facebook post from my visit to Pikworo. The true meaning of unity in diversity is one of the main lessons I've learned from this dark past in our shared human story, and strive to live by as much as I can. Thank you for the awareness in words. I replace the word slaves by people, captives, domestic servants, enslaved and slaves. And I think the other word was collaborators. We will come back to Mr. Ado for him to share more on the collaborators. He talked about the collaborators of people who could speak the language of the captors and the language of the people. But who were these collaborators? It will be more to learn more about them. Someone says, Mr. Ado, thank you for sharing. I love the passion with which you speak. I see me in you. It is time for me to join my congregation, but it's getting too exciting on this platform. I will miss, I think this is one of our family who has to leave for some prayers. And I think another member of our family is fasting and they have to go and break their fast as it's Ramadan. Mr. Other schools, our snow chief will be stupid enough to exchange their domestic help for useless, pointless mirrors. I'm sorry, guys, I'm breaking my fast from my end. Thank you. These and many other thoughts and feelings, bodily responses have been shared here this evening. We will be going back shortly to Ed, and Ed will be sharing the photos that have been shared from Pikworo all the way to Assin Manso. We'd like to do this because aside telling the story, we also want to attach visuals to the story that we are hearing. But before we hand over to Ed to share, I will go back to Mr. Ado and ask, please, Mr. Ado, tell us about these collaborators. Who were they? What did they look like? What language did they speak? What were some of the tricks or the techniques they were using? Because clearly the collaborators, I will call them middlemen, were these people.
Our friends, they thought
Ms. Ado, if you can hear us, we are asking who were these collaborators?
The collaborators.
Yes, please.
Should I say interpreters?
I
will not say interpreter because if you go to the palace, the interpreter or chairman and all those things. But when they came, they couldn't speak the language. So they taught the local people their language. See, when the Dutch came, they taught perhaps they came, they met their language. And then they also learn their language because they know that the people know the language of where they were going. Let's say I go to the north, then I take somebody who can speak what you can say, Hausa or what and then tell me that this is what I want to say. So when you go to an Hausa man, say that my master says, just like Ochiame at the palace. So when they will come, in fact, they will tell you all that they need. And you know, that is why we say, we say unkonkonsa. Unkonkonsa. Collaborated. He will tell you that I'm going to offer one gene for this. You come and tell you, he said he needs 2 people for 1 gene. So the collaborators will come with their masters, the merchants. Then when they come to the chief or whoever they are going to collect their captives from, they tell them that, oh, our master, our merchant says he needs this, he needs this. Is that so? Okay, get this and give it this. So that's why I call collaborators. They were trained in the foreigners trained them to speak with their local people. So that, should I say interpreters? That is all. I think you follow what I mean. Yes.
I do.
But why we call them collaborators is that they were not all that friendly. What they told the indigenous people, maybe because the merchants didn't know what they were saying, and the local people didn't know what they were telling the merchants. That's why I call them collaborators. That's why I call them collaborators. There were local people who were trained to speak both the local language and the foreigners' language. That's why I call them collaborators.
Thank you. And if you're ready, Tonight, we have started our journey from somewhere in Pikworo. We've journeyed through to Salaga Market. Some have made it, some did not. We have done a little over 700 plus 500 kilometers by foot. It was a journey of thorns and thistles. It was a journey of twists and turns. It was a journey that was going to be of no return. But somewhere along the line, we got to Assin Manso. And fortunately for us, those who couldn't make it, those who were deemed weaker, were absorbed into this community, and they were going to be part of the community. They were going to be a bona fide part of this community, and so their children's children would always identify themselves as part of that community. And so in Assin Manso, you don't go and use the word Donko. It does not exist. With outstretched arms, I invite all of the tribe tonight to come with me into the awareness of awareness as we remember. And when we come back, share with us a world reimagined transatlantic trade. What would it have been like? And share with us why you remember. So Ed, if you're ready, I'm going to ask you to play for us the video this evening, The Journey to the Last Bath. Ed, when you're ready. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pikworo, menta sakakabayer seba. Pikworo, may we never come there again. Have you heard the auction of the auctioneer? Chained in the shackles of pains, their pains was what gave others gains. Born as free men with identity, they were bona fide sons and daughters in whose veins flowed royalty, honor, and dignity. But the scavenger came their way, and the Pikworo never recovered from that day. On that punishment rock, others perished, yet others flourished. They were journeying, trembling and trekking from painful sandbars in Pikworo. They were marched to Salaga, then they took painful baths in Assin Manso. They looked back in fear, going through the door of no returns. Bahiwo ikandanga ye.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. we know we will.
It was a journey of uncertainty. It was a journey to the unknown. It was a journey that many took. It was a journey that normally began with a group of about 300 from Pikworo, but very few will be able to make it to Assin Manso. And even when they did, it was just a few who will be considered strong enough to continue through the doors of no return to the unknown place. This was a story of the journey to the last bath. At this point, Nanesi, I would like to invite you to share some reflections. You have written a piece you would like to share with the community. So Nanesi, please share some reflections.
It's actually not my poem. It's a poem written by someone called Aliyah Pierce. She's a National Geographic explorer and a poet, and she imagines the captured African's journey, and it's a journey of defiance.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear it? Are you really listening to the reverberated rhythm? Chorus of call and response. Hands slapping on their thighs, bare feet stomping on wooden boards. This hollow theatre made of iron and wood brought together an orchestra of people across the continent. Instruments of human bodies and voice and shapes crescendo into a song of strategy. Sounds of revolt amplifying through the very fibers of the floor. This organized performance of humanity, deemed confusion, was communication. Are you really listening? Rhythm and repetition beats booming in coordination through the acoustic architecture. Sound, a new language of resistance. A code only the 274 captured knew, built from the body as a reminder. I am still human. I am still here. Listen.
I am still here. I am still human. Listen. Thank you, Nanesi, for sharing. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will quickly go through the chat. I think it was just a reminder of who is here and who is not here. Yeah. You put in those words again, collaborators who translated interpreters, the kokonsa, and then the merchants. Thank you, Nanesi. Thank you. So what are you thinking and why do you remember? If we could tell the story again, transatlantic trade, reimagined, a gateway for people to buy and sell, a gateway for people to go and see and find for themselves, out of curiosity, what is happening on the other side. These people who don't look like us or who don't speak like us. Perhaps it would have been a story of friendship, perhaps it would have been a story of love, people marrying and being married, businesses coming together, collaborations that are true collaborations. What would this world, what would it have looked like? Transatlantic trade reimagined. We will come back to our narrators, Mr. Ado and Gabriel and his team at Pikworo, but I would like to invite for the first time to the tribe, our history teacher, Michael Ayoliga, who has been on and off because of technical difficulties. But Michael, I can see you're with us. So Michael, thank you and welcome to Africaniwa, My Lens, Our Story. Michael? Unless Raymond, you've got something to share. Raymond, you had your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to say that our narrator, the history teacher, is around. I wanted to just inform you that he's around. So I think he's on.
Thank you. And Michael, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Africaniwa, My Lens, Our Story. Michael, would you like to introduce yourself, please.
The thing is not good there.
Michael, are you going to be able to turn your camera off so we can hear you, because the sound really is not the best. So if you could turn your cameras off, then perhaps we could hope that the sound works better. Yes, Michael. I think it's like, well, please introduce yourself, Michael.
Michael Ayolika.
Yes.
Thank you.
Michael, we understand that you are a history teacher. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I take.
Understand University of Winneba, level 400.
Yeah.
Doing masters.
Have we lost Michael? I think we have lost Michael. Yes, we have lost Michael. Let's move over. Wintembo, are you with us, Wintembo?
Yes, please, I am with us. Good evening to us all.
Thank you, Wintembo, for joining, and it's always a privilege to be able to get into very spirited conversations and to be able to create this content with you. Thank you once more for lending your voice and your talent to the tribe for doing that piece. Always a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to work with you. Wintembo, can you confirm with us that you had your formative years of education in Ghana?
Yes, I I don't know. I did have my formative educative years right here in Ghana. That is true.
Okay, and tonight we would like to know, you have heard the story, the journey we have made from Pikworo all the way to Assin Manso. Is this history that you were taught at school? Are you hearing this for the first time?
Yes and no. Yes, because I have heard history, around slavery, and then I know how they moved. But no, because with the level of information that Sir Ado came and then shared with us all, and even what Gabriel shared regarding Pikworo, is at another level. It's a little bit different. What we are being taught in school is just on the surface, but to me, this is a dive deeper into what I have learned.
All right. But Mintembo, you finished school many years ago, basic school years ago, and secondary school years ago. And I've asked that you bring Sewa to the tribe yet again this evening. So I am informed that you have Sewa with you. And we would like to welcome her back to the tribe and ask her to introduce herself. Sewa, welcome back to Africaniwa, My Lens, Our Story. An absolute joy to have you back here. And we hear that you're now in secondary school. And you are not a little girl a couple of years ago. How are you? How are you doing? And introduce yourself. Some people are meeting you for the first time.
Well, the pleasure is all mine to also be getting this very educative information. I'm doing well by His grace. And yes, to the people who haven't met me before, my name is Shelly Ochisewa. I am in Upper West Region, Ghana. Here joining you guys.
All right. So we started our journey from Pikworo, which is not too far from you compared to people in other parts of Ghana. And this is history that is not Ghana's story. It is not Africa's story. It is the world's history. And so the Cape Coast Castle we also know that it is World Heritage Site. So this is the world's history, and it's important to learn about the world. I want to find out if this is history that you have learned at school, all that you've heard today. Maybe you've heard a bit of it, maybe none, maybe the first time. Is this history that you've learned at school?
Well, no, I would say no, because it's on this platform. I'm even learning that there's a slave camp in Upper East called Pikworo. I'm only aware of Elmina Castle and normally just the ones down south. I'm not aware of the names and like details about the ones here. So this is no information I've gotten in school.
But when you went into school, I'm sure that you learned about how snow is formed. The formation of snow. The formation of snow.
Yes, yes.
And when you were in nursery school, you learned a song that sounds, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down.
Yes, yes, we did.
So you can sing that song.
Yes.
You don't.
London Bridge is falling down.
Yes, but you don't know the story of Pikworo.
Unfortunately not.
You haven't heard of the last bath, Assin Manso?
No.
Okay. If you know a history teacher, please tell them to join Africaniwa. We need to ask a Ghanaian history teacher a question, because the history teacher we brought, unfortunately, his internet is down. And so thank you for sharing, Sewa. But we are running out of time. Briefly, what have you learned and what are you going back to school? The difficult questions you're going to ask your teachers, number one, and what stories are you going to be sharing with your friends?
Well, I've used this has been an opportunity for me to get more knowledge about how the slave trade about. I'm only aware that they get the slaves and then they just send them. I'm not aware that they go through all this suffering, the walking, sitting under the sun, and the death, the sicknesses. So that's something I've learned. I would also like to go and share the story to my fellow friends who don't also know the story about Pikworo, because we haven't learned it. So it will also be a learning opportunity for them. Well, one thing I've learned is that from all this is that Africa as a nation has gone through a lot of suffering due to the Europeans and then the slave trade. And this is something we are supposed to know in schools, and unfortunately we don't. We have to learn our culture and know more about it. As you said, we know the London Bridge is falling down song, and we have learned about the formation of snow, but we don't know our own culture, which is very bad. As Africans, we have to first know ourselves before we can know others. So this is something I'll spread to my friends back in school. There's also been a nice experience to know more about the culture, know in detail how everything went down. It's actually quite sad to picture all this. People sitting under the sun, walking such long distances. It's very sad.
At the beginning of the session was, why do we remember? And I think perhaps for you at the beginning would have been difficult because you don't even have anything to remember. Tonight you have a lot to remember. So why will you remember?
Why will I remember?
Yes.
Well, because actually I don't know the deeper story of how the slave trade went by. So the reason I remember is that the thoughts of how our forefathers went through all these pain and suffering, the thought of how Africa as a country has come.
Africa as a continent.
Sorry, Africa as a continent has come up from then till now. It's actually quite vast. So I remember the transition. Yes, that's why I would like to remember.
Yes. We sang London Bridge is Falling Down, but we also said the pledge. And there's a part of the pledge that says, our heritage won for us through the blood and toil of our fathers. That heritage that was won for us was a journey from Pikworo to Assin Manso. Others have died, others have perished, and Gabriel says that under the baobab tree is all the evidence, the heritage that was won for us through the blood and toil of our fathers. So I thank you for coming. It's always a joy to have you on. Very best with your school endeavors. And by all means, go and tell your history teacher at the end of this month, when they get their pay, they should look for us. Our name is Africaniwa, and they should pay us because we are doing their job for them. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Let's go back to Pikworo. Gabriel, if you can hear me, we are still on here, Gabriel.
Yes, I'm here, please.
You heard Sewa. She knows how snow is formed. She can tell us about the formation of snow. She can even sing a song about London Bridge is falling down. She doesn't know Pikworo. Please, if you know a history teacher, tell them to find us and give us their pay this month, because we are doing the job. I want you to share your reflections. Is this a new thing for you to find somebody in secondary school or or junior secondary in Ghana who hasn't heard the story ever?
It is not surprising. It has been happening. Even most of our school children that come to visit us, most of them do say that it is their first time of hearing it, first time of coming and all that. So it's common. It's common among we the Ghanaians here. A lot of people don't know about it.
And this is why we have Africaniwa as a knowledge building and sharing. Mr. Adus told the Nigerians to go back and to remove that history from the book about the mirrors. And it is spaces like Africaniwa that we can have ordinary or perhaps extraordinary people share these very, very important part of our history that is seemingly lost or forgotten. I briefly want you to tell us in terms of the remembering some of the work you're doing with the DNA project, and then we shall go quickly to Assin Manso and take some reflections from there. So we were asking, why do we remember? Why is it important to even keep this history? And through our conversations preparing for this tonight's exhibition, you mentioned the DNA project. What has DNA got to do with all that? Please tell us.
Okay, so with the DNA, it talks about the genetic makeup of individual. And with our genes, it tells us who we are related to and where we are from. This DNA can tell your tribe, where you are coming from, the group you belong to, the part of Africa, even if you have mixed genes, like your grandparents ever had intercourse with the Western or the whites, it can still tell. Yes, so with a brief of this, through my work, I got in touch with researchers who were looking for this information as why people were captured from Africa to the Western countries. And we came to understanding that they were actually investigating deep into the DNA, where they can actually trace about 60, 50, or let me say, they consider 32 generations back as their minimum of their studies. So they contacted me if we can collaborate and work on this project. Yes, that was in 2018. Yes, where we actually came together to form this organization. So we have a group of researchers from the United States of America, and then I supported them with the coordination for the whole of Ghana, where we were actually looking for people who have a viable information about what happened to their forefathers in terms of enslavement. These people were selected at random per research processes, and we were able to gather but so far we have over 100 participants who took part in our study to find this
Gabriel is frozen, and we
relationship with people in the diaspora. Can you hear me?
Yes, we lost you. We lost you briefly. You were talking about the relationship with people in the diaspora.
Yes. So with the study that we started, we understood that people in the diaspora were also much concerned with knowing where they came from through enslavement, which they started the process long ago. Initial studies were showing that people in the diaspora, either in London, in America, the DNA can tell which part of Africa they came in from. And we went deep to go much into our study where we can actually take African descent and then test. With this result, we will find the diasporans can actually trace a direct contact, even calculating the number of generations they have shared with the people in Ghana here. So we are using this DNA to connect directly to the lost families. And these people in the diaspora never knew that they can actually do this until this DNA project came up. So we are doing our best to get this information, reach everyone in Ghana as I speak. It has been over 8 years in the system, and a lot of events have been happening on it, and then still a lot of people are not aware of it. As I speak now, we are in process of getting DNA test kits from the US, where we will be taking Ghanaians and we'll be taking their samples around 20 to 25th of July, where the samples will be sent to America for processing, and then people who have taken the test already, maybe 10, 20 years, once you have your DNA results on GetMatch or you have your DNA results on 23andMe.
We have lost him. We have lost him yet again. But those were some of the leading. Yes, we lost you. You were mentioning some of the brands, 23andMe.
Yes, 23andMe. We have Ancestry. We have GetMatch. So these are few companies our data has been fixed in. And so anyone in the diaspora, when you have your DNA done, uploaded on the web, you can contact us. I think once I coordinate this project, we share a common email for all the people that are working under our project. So when you go in, we have a common tribe name, the Kasana tribe. That is our tribe. So when you go to your DNA results and you see that you are connected to someone in Ghana, specifically the Kasana tribe, you can click on the email there, link up. I will do the response for you and basically connect you to the family where we have actually taken the sample for the DNA. So in brief, this is what happened. We do this because each year we have celebration that we take on Emancipation Day celebrations. We celebrate Pan-Affairs as well. So African Americans or cousins in the diaspora who actually want to reunite with their families, we gather this period to actually have a group reunion. Some prefer to have individual reunions where we have actually done over 20 reunions so far. People travel down to meet their families. I wish I can say pictures and videos of this, but next time when we meet, yes. Yeah. So this is what we are doing for now, and we will be having a larger testing. Specifically, I am not going into details of it, but we will be doing next testing in July, yeah, around 20th, 25th, yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And as I said, the DNA is really interesting. I have been in spaces with elderly women and I've spoken this beautiful language that is beautifully crafted and woven. And I've told stories about my grandmother. And some of these women have said, Adele, you have no idea. You have something that we will never have. We grew up in the Caribbean somewhere, and we can't tell stories of our grandmothers and their mothers' before them. We know that we have come from Africa where we do not know. We can't speak the strange language you're speaking. And this is something that is so painful, we cannot even begin to quantify. And to say that you are reuniting people with their families, families have been torn apart for so many years and for so many generations. I can't even begin to imagine families that don't even speak the same language, families that have been raised in different cultures. We look forward to sharing more on this with you in the future. Thank you so very much indeed. Maybe you had a history teacher before coming on the session, but today you've met another history teacher. A history teacher who did not go to your secondary school or your teacher's training college. A history teacher who's born out of experience, Mr. Ado. If you're still with us, Assin Manso, as our village comes to a close, we would like to finally go to Assin Manso and take some reflections. Mr. Ado, are you still with us, please?
And we will be in Assin Manso as well to take a group of people for the study, and then Cape Coast as well.
I was going to say that your study, however good it is, will not be successful if Africaniwa's history teacher, Mr. Ado, is not part. So please connect with him and let him teach you the history as it ought to be told. Mr. Ado, your microphone is off. Dorcas, if you are able to turn this microphone on, we will be taking some last reflections. Mr. Ado, I think that tonight a lot of people are going to write to their history teachers, and they are going to tell them to bring you some of their pay because you have done the work that they have not done. Ghana Education Service has failed them. The curriculum itself needs to be decolonized. And thank you for all the learnings that you have brought into the space this evening. You heard from Sewa, who can tell us how snow is formed. You heard from Sewa, who can sing London Bridge is falling down, but she doesn't know of Assin Manso. Any reflections, please?
Yes, Assin Manso, as I told you, was another time, was a slave. I don't want to use the word, but it had become used to be people. That's why I say was the captive market, and it was the last place that they had their last bath. That they felt they were Africans. From here, they were taken to the castle, and that was the end.
Thank you.
Yes, and please, I would like our teachers, to know that the white. In fact, I'm not against any European, but because they are very clever and they know how to move with things. Could you believe that when some expatriates came here, they were annoyed with our chiefs. They were bold to tell us that you sold our grandparents into slavery. But I was so much annoyed that it really resulted into a fight. I told them that our grandparents didn't exchange them for anything, but it was the people who came to induce the chiefs. That's why I call them poor, innocent victims were taken as captives. When the Jews were in Egypt, they were in slavery. In Africa, go to, even let's say Ghana, go to every house. We have servants. We don't have slaves. We treat them as human beings and as our neighbors. But over there, they took us for, should I say, second-class human beings. I'm not against any white man, but all that I want our people to understand is that we were not slaves, but we were captives. They forced our own kinsmen to capture us and give to them for a drink or a tobacco. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ed, if you're ready, there are two images we will ask Mr. Ado to elaborate on. You sent us a few images from Assin Manso, and Ed will be sharing those images for you to tell us briefly about those images. So the first birth of return, what is this about, please?
Oh, the first birth of return was after the emancipation, and then our people came back at the year of return. And when they came from the year of return, we asked them to pass through the last bath to see what happened there. And then they have come to their own land and they'll have their bath in the river, and it is their first bath of return. That same river Amisa, Ochi. You can see the river over there.
Yes.
Have you seen the river? Yes.
We see it.
So go back, see the year of return and see where this river is. That was why you put it on.
Thank you. Thank you. Add the next image, please. So if you're not aware, the year of return was a big era in Ghana's history where all our families in the diaspora came back, and symbolically to say that this was the last bath with which ancestors went and never returned, the first bath of return was symbolic of many generations after that who will come and still go into the river and return. And I found that this was really powerful. This is when you finish with the first bath and everything, you're walking out of the park. It says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And there's one of our tribesmen who really likes this quote, and he's done few performances with us singing this song, Redemption by Bob Marley. And what does this mean to people who have visited the park and are leaving? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
Assin Manso, when you come to the park, you call it a site of conscience. So if you're an African or whoever you are, when you enter that place, whatever you see, whatever you have encounter with, will tell you what happened. That's why I said, think about what you have come to see.
Emancipate.
Yes. What we have gone through and where we are now, what do you feel? That's why you call that the site of conscience.
As you exit that site of conscience, the question is stark. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. What does this mean to you? Thank you so much. Ed, do we have the very last one, please? Or it's just two? I think that there's one last one. So this is a headstone of somebody called Samuel Carson, our ancestor from the United States of America, reinterred in 1998. So we know that this is somebody's mortal remains that have been dug out again and brought to Ghana from America to finally have rest. What does it mean?
Samuel Carson, you see, in 1998, when we were going to celebrate Emancipation Day here, Samuel Carson's grandson was at the university in the US. Then he said, my grandfather was this army general in the US, but because of his color, he was not given a befitting burial. So I want him to be reinterred in Africa and be given a befitting burial. So if you had come here that in 1998, 1st August, you would have seen something for yourself. We gave him a burial as an African and as an army general. Then Lady Crystal went on hunger strike because he wanted the brothers and sisters to be emancipated. And true to her word, she didn't have their freedom, so she went on hunger strike and died, and she was buried there. Some of her ancestors who came with her are still in Assin Manso.
Thank you. That is the story of Samuel Carson
and Lady Crystal.
You talk about Lady Crystal, and these are people whose mortal remains have now been reinterred in African land on African soil somewhere at Assin Manso. a lot of learnings this evening, and I can see that the tribe is quiet because we are soaking a lot in, and I will also have a lot to go and reflect on. Believe me, we have been called to do this. You'll be wondering, Africaniwa, how do you even find this man? How do you even find these people? Yes, Mr. Ado, people will be wondering where we found you. And
Yes.
we have been called to do this. So if you are meant to come here to tell the story, definitely you will be here. But this is not the first, and this won't be the last. We will continue to tell the story. And we are looking forward to inviting you back into the tribe. There's a lot that we hope to do from tonight's exhibition. There are children who need to hear the story. There are the elderly who need to hear the story. And a lot of our families who are trying to connect and reunite with their families back on African soil. You've given us a lot to think about and reflect on this evening. I would like to say thank you so much for coming, for your time. Thank you, Gabriel. We couldn't get to speak to our history teacher, but we spoke to Muntombo, we spoke to Sewa, and I feel very much challenged and encouraged to continue this work. If you did not tell your story, be sure someone else would, and they might not tell it right. Our name is Africaniwa, and we will be here again the very last Friday of next month. What story are we going to tell? Well, I'll just say follow us. Thank you all for your time this evening. 12 minutes past time, I do apologize. Ed, please share the slides once again for tonight's exhibition, Journey to the Last Bath. Thank you all. God bless. Bye for now.
Ed,
bye.
Okay, everybody, Mintombo wishes you a very amazing night. May all the history shared here reflect on you.
Pikworo, menta sakakabayer seba. Pikworo, may we never come there again. Have you heard the auction of the auctioneer? Chained in the shackles of pains, their pains was what gave others gains. Born as free men with identity, they were bona fide sons and daughters in whose veins flowed royalty, honor, and dignity. But the scavenger came their way, and the Pikworo never recovered from that day. On that punishment rock, others perished, yet others flourished. They were journeying, trembling and trekking from painful sandbars in Pikworo. They were marched to Salaga, then they took painful baths in Assin Manso. They looked back in fear, going through the door of no returns. Bahiwo ikandanga ye.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti, how we
Who
will
knows how we
get,
will get
but we know we
there?
will.
We know we will. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Africaniwa, long live your legacies.